Excuse the delay, excuse the terrible picture. We've had technical difficulties, but nothing will stop us. Here we go. Now we're talking about Chanuka. This Wednesday night is going to be holiday of Chanuka. We Jews have been celebrating this holiday for a long time, Chanuka, 2,000 years. Now, what is the Chanuka? Chanuka is a miracle, is celebrating a great miracle that we had in the middle of the Second Temple when the Greeks had conquered the whole world, and they conquered Israel also, and they defiled the temple. They didn't destroy the temple. The Romans did that about 200 years later. They defiled the temple. What do you mean they defiled? They just touched things. They didn't really have to do very much in order to defile it. And they told the Jews that they could use the holy temple, they could make the offerings or whatever they wanted to, but not in a holy way. It shouldn't be holy. It should be a religious way. That's okay. And they fought a big battle, right? There was 13 Jews stood up against the whole tens of thousands of Greeks, and they fought against them. I guess other Jews joined in afterwards, and they defeated them. And they made a big miracle. There's a big miracle, and they celebrated the miracle by lighting candles. And we talked about this, if you remember last week, we talked about it a little bit, about what the altar is, and the blood of the offerings, and the fat of the offerings, and the light that corresponds to Torah and to prayer. Last week we talked about this a little bit. Now let's resume, because it's a very interesting holiday, the holiday of Chanuka. In a way, it's the last holiday that was instituted by the rabbis. There was Purim, that was between the first and the second temple, and then there was Chanuka about 200 years later, 250 years later. Okay. Well, it says, what is the topic of Chanuka? Oh, the picture is really bad here, huh? Really bad picture. Okay, what are we going to do? Or the camera stopped working, and I lost the other camera. I don't know. So anyway, this is what you got. Okay, ready? You can see vaguely that it's a human being speaking, and it's a human being with the beard. In Chanuka, what is Chanuka? Hine, behold, kavu haneis paneros. The neis has been the miracle. We celebrate the neis, the miracle of Chanuka, with candles, lighting lights. Masha'enki, which is not the case. Sharanisim, all the other miracles like Passover, going out of Egypt. We eat matzah. On Purim, we have meals. Keneged a galut, which corresponds to the exile that there was back then, in the time of exile of Purim and in the time of Passover. Also, it was Gufani in Egypt. They worked with Homer Bilavenim in Egypt. They were hard work. And in the days of Haman wanted to kill everybody's bodies. He wanted to kill all the Jews physically. B'shalom labuz, and to defile, to destroy all the Jewish people, which is not came on Chanuka. Chanuka was not a miracle, a physical miracle. Shahaya Yisrael Sharima al Dad Masam. The Jewish people were all in Israel. They weren't like in Egypt, that all the Jewish people were in exile. Rak Galot the Torah, there was just exile of the Torah. What do you mean Torah? The Greeks, they just wanted Torah Techa. The Greeks wanted to make the Jews forget the Torah. And really not to forget the Torah. They didn't mind the Torah. In fact, they really respected the Torah. And they learned the Torah. And it says the Talmud, one of the elders, he was the spirit, one of the leaders of Greece over there. He ordered that the Torah should be translated into 70 languages because he wanted the Torah. He respected the Torah. He knew that the Torah was ancient wisdom. He respected Jewish wisdom. He respected Jewish culture. He respected, but he didn't like the idea of a Jewish God. He didn't like the God of the Jews. Now, not to say they didn't have gods. The Greeks had their gods. They had a lot of gods. They worshipped their gods. The Olympics, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that we shouldn't participate in the Olympics. We shouldn't do it. Why? Because the Olympics was worshiping their God. They had this place called Olympus, and they made a thing and everything, and they worshipped the human body. And so the Greeks were replete with gods. They had a lot of gods: God of love, the God of war, the God of this. So they weren't against gods. They're okay with gods. Jews can have their gods, but not the God of the Jews. What's the God of the Jews? The God of the Jews, he creates everything all the time, and he cares about everything. The God of the Jews, he creates the whole world, and he cares about the world. That's why he put the Jews here, and he gave the Jews the commandments. The commandments. Well, it says all they wanted to do, the Greeks, they didn't want to destroy the Jewish bodies or enslave them like it was in Purim or Passover. They just wanted to confuse the Jewish soul. Something like this picture I got over here, the Jewish soul, to make it, that you say, fuzzy, not clear. Why exactly are we doing the commandments? We do it because our parents, our forefathers did it. It's our heritage to connect to the spiritual. People have spiritual needs, the spiritual God, but we're not going to do things because God tells us to do. We're not going to do it because God tells us to do it. That's not the reason we're going to do. We're going to do the commandments because it's good for us. It's for our benefit. That's religion. That's what religion is. We're not going to. The same thing in the Holy Temple. We're doing the commandments in the Holy Temple. Why? Because it's to our benefit. It's to our heritage. It gives us identity. It gives us our cohesion and integrity, that we're all together and we're all doing the same commandments, and that's what holds Judaism together. Those things are very nice, but that's not the reason why we do the commandments. We do it because God told us, and that's what the Greeks didn't like. The Greeks didn't like that. You have to put yourself are first and yourself is last. The gods help you. And gods are there to help you. And in Judaism, we're here, so to speak, to help God. We're doing to give what God gives us everything. He creates us. We owe him everything. The Greeks didn't like that. And even so, in the holiday of Chanuka, the Jews were not in such a desperate situation. It wasn't a holiday that we came out of desperation and we came out of in danger to our lives, etc. No, the Jewish people lived in Israel, not like in Passover. And lo golomir, some rak galut Torah. Only the Torah was exiled. And then the Greeks wanted the Jews to forget the God that gave the Torah, Torah techa, your Torah. You could do the commandments. We also have our customs. We have our our practices, our rituals. The Greeks said, but don't do it because God told you. Therefore, kavo beneros. Therefore, the holiday is not on. We don't make meals on the holiday. We don't. There's nothing physical that we do on the holiday except for lighting the candles. That's the pasuk, because it comes from the sentence from Mishle, from Proverbs, ner mitzvah v'torah or, that the commandments are a lamp and the Torah is the light from the lamp. V'derech chayim tochachas musa. This is the whole sentence from Proverbs, and the way of life is the they say limitations of of reproof. Tochachas musa, reproof. The way of life is if you are told if you're making mistakes or not. That's what the Torah does. The Torah keeps you in line with what God wants. It says the commandments are a lamp, the Torah is a light, and the way of life is the reproof of the teachings of reproof. Reproof means, to correct people. Okay, let's understand the sentence, and also why is at the end of the sentence it says derech chayim tochachas musar. What does it mean that the lamp, the commandments are a lamp, and the Torah is the light from the lamp, and the way of life is the reproof of, what do you call it, Musa? What's it called in English? I don't know, the coaching or something. I don't know how they translate it. Okay, Torah beer. We have to have an explanation. Why is this not clear? Must be something spiritual going on. Okay, what are you going to do? Torah beer, we have to understand. Is it derech chayim? What is the way of life? What we said, the commandments are a lamp. The Torah is a light. And the way of life is being reproved, being corrected. Being corrected. It says, what the way of life, that's the Torah. We just finished saying the Torah. It should say the commandments are a lamp, the Torah is a light, and the way of life. That's all. And the way of life. What does it mean the way of life is the reproof of Musa? What is What exactly is this? And what is this way of life? Excuse me. So we have to explain. What type of life is there except for the Torah and the commandments that we just finished saying? So the explanation is like this: that which the commandments are compared to a lamp, and the Torah is compared to the light which comes from the lamp. Moving, it's understood, just like a lamp. Nikra is called because of the oil which is in the lamp. Kalash and Razal, like the rabbis say, Ner Shel Shemen, a lamp of oil, an oil lamp. Ner Shel Shaiva, or a lamp which is from a wax. Hine Aval, even though that the oil cannot really make light on its own. If you light through a match into oil, nothing's going to happen. It'll just go out. If you put fire into oil, the fire will go out. The oil puts the fire out. Any fire that falls inside of oil will be extinguished. Nevertheless, from oil was drawn down, lahav, will be drawn the flame, or of the fire, which is in a wick. Just a little bit of oil. Which is drawn after the wick. When the oil finishes, the fire goes away, right? So it's a pretty interesting thing. Oil is combustible. It lights, right? It lights. Try it. Put a little bit of oil on a table and put whatever is over there, throw a match into it, and the oil put the match out. What is it that the oil lights? Is if it's drawn up through a wick, then a little bit of it on the end, then it starts to burn. Okay, so this strange phenomena that oil is like water. It'll put out a fire. It'll put out a fire. Unless the fire is like really, really, big. If the fire is like much greater than the oil, just a little tiny bit of oil, then it'll light it up. But if it's a little bit more than that, then it won't. So therefore, we have a wick that draws the fire gradually, and it stays lit. Kachamamish, the same thing is with the commandments. The commandments, which they are the will of God, beli shum tam, without any logic, v'dat, something like the wick, right? Like a wick. Ein bo shum hasaga. The commandments are totally incomprehensible. Why would God, who creates the whole universe, care if a Jew put a box on his arm? It's important to go. What type of a God is that? That's what God is looking for. Why? Nevertheless, mimeno, from it, and by means of it, nimshach is revealed niskala or chachma. So the commandments, they're like a lamp, which a lamp is has no light to it whatsoever, has no power of giving light. But nevertheless, if it's used properly, you put oil in it, and then you have a wick on the oil, then it will light and makes light miraculously. The commandments. So even though the commandments themselves are not logical and they have absolutely nothing to do with God, they don't seem to be spiritual at all. They don't improve the person, right? Ostensibly at all. He puts on tefillin on his head. He puts on tzitzit. It does absolutely nothing. What's that got to do with God? Like, God is spiritual. God is supposed to be something that's really impressive. And these things are not impressive at all. Nevertheless, says the Rebbe, good, even though the commandments are dead, just like a lamp is dead, but if it's used properly, you can get light from it. That's by means of the commandments. The commandments, even though they have no logic to them, from it is drawn down light, the light of wisdom. What is this light that's drawn down through? What is the fire? The fire, that's the Torah. And especially the oral Torah, the Talmud. The Horaita, because the Torah, michachma nafka, this comes from God's wisdom. The Chachma, the Havana, the Torah, and having grasping the concepts and the understanding of the Torah in the oral Torah, the Talmud, Hurak lavin, laskir, it's to understand the commandments. So the essence of the Torah, when God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, so it was pure godliness, and pure godliness in the Torah. But then when it was ungodliness in the Torah, it was totally impractical. It was impractical. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what it meant. Which day is Shabbat? What does it mean, keep the Shabbat? What are you supposed to keep? What are you supposed to do? It doesn't say anything. It says you shouldn't have any fire burning in your house. So you can burn a fire in the street. But if the words are not clear, what are even the 10 commandments, which are the clearest things? Don't kill. Right? Maybe it means don't kill anything. Don't kill bacteria. Don't kill. Impractical. Therefore, you had to have the rabbis come. And that's what the Torah was given for that. The Torah was given purposely in shorthand so that the rabbis would explain the Torah. One of the commandments of the Torah is to learn the Torah. The rabbis would come and they would explain it. And all these the rabbis were tremendously holy and devoted people, and their wisdom is written in the Talmud. And the Talmud comes to explain exactly what is the commandments, what you're supposed to do to make it practical. So to speak, the commandments, they're like the lamp, and the wisdom of the wise men that explain what the commandments is, that's the Torah, and that's the light which is inside of it. And that's how we celebrate Chanuka, because Chanuka, the Greeks wanted to stop the holiness of the Torah and of the commandments. It is written, Baboker, Behitivos, Aneros, Yaktireno, Ubahalos, Aronos, Aneros, Ben Arboim, Yaktireno. We talked about this a little bit last time, but the Chanuka candles that we light are remembering the lights that were lit in the Holy Temple. In the Holy Temple also there was a menorah, and the menorah in the Holy Temple was different than in certain ways, right? There was 7 arms. Now we have 8 arms, and it was lit. And then the Holy Temple was lit in the daytime. We light it in the nighttime, and then the Holy Temple was lit in a holy place. We can light the candles in any place. But nevertheless, the candles that we light now, there's explanations for that, beautiful explanations, why the difference in the candles we light now, Chanuka. But suffice it to say that the candles that we light now are a remembrance of the candles that we lit in the Holy Temple. And it's even more than just a remembrance. It's in the place of. The candles that we're lighting now serve the same function and have the same result as the lights that they lit in the Holy Temple. And it didn't stop. When the Holy Temple stopped, the one thing that did not stop is the lighting of the candles. Even though in the Holy Temple they lit every day, and we're going to talk about that now, and we light it only 8 days of the year, but nevertheless, the Chanuka candles that we light now, that's sort of a microcosm of the candles they lit in the Holy Temple. Okay, so it says, when did they light these candles? It says, every morning they would prepare the lights, and they would light them. They would light the candle. They would light 1 candle or 2 candles. Then in the nighttime, and then it was in the night that let's say the late afternoon, right, 3 in the afternoon, 1 or 4 in the afternoon, then Aaron would light all of the candles. That's called Bein Arabayim. He would light all of them, right? Yaktiron means he would light them up, light up the candle. Okay. Ulahavin lama gabi baboker, in the morning, it said that he would hetivo, that he would prepare the candles. When it says he would prepare the candles, it also implies that he would light 1 or 2 of the candles in the daytime. That would be remaining lit the whole day. There he uses the language behetivo. Behetivo. He would make them good, but it means that he would light them. And in the evening, it says that he would lift them up. Same thing. He would light the candles, but he uses the word lift them up. Okay, what is this idea of the candles in the Holy Temple? What's the idea of the Jewish people in general? What are we here? We're the chosen people for what? What are we chosen for? Well, it says were chosen to benefit the whole world, and doing the commandments is what benefits the world. And one of the commandments is lighting the candles in the holy temple. We talked about that last week. Lahavin, let's understand Lama, why in the morning it says Heitivo, and in the evening it says Baalot. Lighting the candles in the daytime, the two candles they lit in the day was Heitivo. It says that they made them good, and in the nighttime it says they lifted them up. Knesset Israel, what's called the Knesset Israel, the what do we call it? The House of Israel. This word Knesset Israel, this refers, usually it refers to the Jewish people. But if you think about it, what is the Jewish people? It's the source of the souls of the Jews. That's called a menorah. The source of the souls of the Jews is called menorah. Now, the Jews are different from everybody else. The Jews are a different nation from everybody else. Please excuse the fuzzy picture. Tomorrow we'll have a different camera. The Jews are a different nation from everybody else. One way you can see it, a not nice way you can see it, is the anti-Semitism. Right? Anti-Semitism has been around since there's been Jews. Right? Abraham was hated. It says the Jews were put into Egypt because they were hated, they were despised. And when they got out, they wandered through the desert. All the nations of the world were afraid of them or warring with them or whatever. Jews are special. Not only that, the Jews seem to be eternal. They just don't go away. The Jews received, since the Jews got out of Egypt 3,300 years ago, there's always been Jews. And the Jews have always known that they're Jews. And there's always been Jews that have tried to deny it and destroy Judaism, but it doesn't work. Enemies from all sides, and especially from inside. And the Jews are just here. So there's something special about the Jews. Even just the fact that the Jews are not really a nationality and they're not really a religion. There certainly are those things as well. Right? And it's not a race. There's a race of Jews. There's Jews of all colors of the rainbow. There's Jews. And then not the rainbow. It's an exaggeration. There's no green Jews. All the possible colors, nations, everywhere. There's Jews that come from everywhere. And there's non-religious Jews that are just as adamant about being Jewish as the biggest rabbis are. Right? So it doesn't depend on religion, it doesn't depend on race, and it doesn't depend on nationality. There's Jews scattered all over the world. We've been scattered around for 2,000 years already. And they still don't know the Jews. What are the Jews? So he says the Jews, the whole purpose of the Jews is to bring blessing to the world. It's a different type of a human being. Jews are a different type of human being. We're here only for good. That's the purpose of the Jews, only for good. There's Jews that, of course, go, they veer from the course, but that's what it is. So that's what it means, Knesset Yisrael. Knesset Yisrael means the source of all of the Jewish people, and that's also called the name of menorah. It's called a candelabra, candle, because the whole essence of the Jewish people is to shine the world up, to make the world see what God is and what good is, what's good, what's bad. That's the Torah. V'im miksha, and it's one b'shem menorah. V'im miksha, and it's one unit. Miksha means it's one. It's the menorah was made from one block of gold. Shekol Yisrael, all the Jewish people, they are one. V'hi mitchalekas, but it branches out into 7 branches. Hiderech prat, because generally there are what's called 600,000 root souls, spark souls of the Jewish people. That every spark, every root soul of the Jews is also divided into 600,000 sub-sparks. That gets explained in the Tanya. But derech prat, derech klal, in a general way, all of the Jews can be, this 600,000 times 600,000 can be divided into 70 souls that came down into Egypt. And those 70 can also be subdivided, sub-unified, super unified, whatever it's called, into 7 nerot. So we have 600,000 times 600,000 Jews, which, what is that? That's some number billion. What is it? 360 billion. I don't know, count it up. Jews, the potential. and those can be divided into 70 categories of the 70 Jews that went into Egypt, and they can be also categorized into the seven branches of the candelabra. Aaron, so it ends up that when Aaron was lighting up the candles in the holy temple, he was really elevating the Jews. Aaron, he was the high priest. He was because Aaron the El Elyon to God, God the Almighty. Mishiva Roim, and Aaron was one of the 7 shepherds that nourish the godliness of every Jew in Knesset Yisrael. Sheha'iru b'or ahava, that they should shine with the light of love, litla'et alav, to be excited about God. Okay, let's get this. The Jewish people are supposed to illuminate the world. How? Because they're supposed to be the ones that tell the world that there's God. Okay, now a person that really believes that there's God should be excited. God is a very exciting thing because God is creating everybody. God is creating everyone in the world. It's a source of life. So it's like giving thanks to the source of life, right? Let's say there was one person, right, the Wizard of Oz or something, and he had this big machine, and he was pumping life into every human being in the world. He lived in some mountain or some place like that, in wherever it is, in the Appalachians, and he had this big machine, and he was keeping everybody alive. Nobody knew about it, right? Nobody knew about it. If somebody discovered this guy is standing up there and he's just pumping life into everybody, millions, billions of people are all alive because of this person is pumping life. So you could come, you would certainly be thankful to this person. Did you know that there's a guy called Harry Groyce? He lives in the Appalachian Mountains, and he's pumping life into everybody in the world. Did you know that? So I didn't know such a thing like that. They go up there and they find out, yes, he's got helpers, once in a while he rests, and he has helpers that they pump into right? They pump life into wouldn't you be grateful to that person? What a wonderful person, keeping everybody alive, right? Don't interrupt them. Everybody's going to die. Right? And if he gets a little sick, then everybody gets a little tired, then people get sick. That's wonderful. Well, that's the Jewish people. The Jewish people are pumping life into the whole entire world. Of course, they receive this life from God. God is giving them the life, and they pump it into the whole world. That's the light that we're talking about from the menorah. Who's the one? But you have to have someone to light these menorah. You have to have someone to light it up. And that was Aaron. So it's the same thing like with us. We had Moshe. He came to tell the Jewish people, listen, you're prisoners in Egypt. You're not supposed to be prisoners. You're not supposed to be servants of the Egyptians. You're supposed to be the servants of God to benefit the whole world. But Moses had to do it. Moses together with Aaron. Here we have Moses and Aaron. Nowadays, Moses and Aaron are together in one person to illuminate the whole entire world, right? Today, of course, that's Lubavitcher Rebbe. He's illuminating the whole entire world, making everybody crazy about God, the Jewish people. And the Jewish people eventually will convince the whole world about God. That's why I say the Jewish people are chosen, with the chosen people to tell the non-Jews how much God loves them. He's creating them. But you have to have Aaron to wake us all up. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. What does it mean to wake up all the Jews, to light the candles, the essence of the souls of every Jew, so that the Jewish people can be active and dynamic in order to benefit and illuminate the whole entire world, as we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Let's go this. Maybe I'm going to try something over here. 1 second. Stop the share. Stop the recording.